We're going to go ahead and start, and first of all, I want to thank you all for coming. By the way, this is going to be recorded and put out on the CLL, Center for Lifelong Learning website, as well as Zoom. So if you have friends or you want to see this again, you'll be able to view this in the not too distant future. The CLL will be putting this out. This is put on by CLL. They asked me a while ago if I would give a presentation about technology at Leisure World, and hence here we are. So I've got some rules, and we're going to talk about that, how this is going to play out. And because I want it to run smoothly, I'm going to talk about a lot of different things, but I'm not going to go into a lot of depth. And but anyway, I'll explain more in a minute. I want to tell you a little bit about me. You saw it in the newspaper. I've been in the information technology industry. I started right out of high school, and actually began my first job working for the Communications Satellite Corporation. And this is actually me, very young, in their data center up in Clarksburg, Maryland. We had just bought these new multi-million-dollar data center computers and all. And I was working with them for about 7 years with them. And then in 1980, I was hired by the Intelsat, that's the International Telecommunications Satellite Organization, and for most of that time I actually managed their data center. We were responsible for spacecraft launches, working with NASA and European Space Agency, and this was actually my last day at Intelsat. I had been offered another opportunity that I took, and I had left them, but this was on Connecticut Avenue. I don't know if you've all ever seen at UDC, there's a very high-tech building there. They've now moved out of it. They're now currently in Tyson's Corner, and then have offices elsewhere in the country. But we ran this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We were doing all the television booking and circuit assignments and all for all of these signatories. We had about 120 some countries that belonged to the system, and we were doing all these things, broadcast satellite. If you all remember in the 70s and 80s, whenever something was going via satellite, you'd always see it via satellite on TV. Well, now it's just assumed things. But back then, at that point, it was exclusively Intelsat. They were doing it throughout the world, globally. And it was a very cool job, but it was very high pressured. So I want to let you know about how we're going to run the meeting here, just so it's all kind of spelled out. We're going to have some fun, and we're going to learn some new things. Some of you will probably know some of the things I'm talking about, and I'm trying to cover it as broad as I can to address a lot of the things that people ask. And a lot of my presentation is made up of having now worked for Leisure World for about 6 years and having lived here about 8. I've always asked a lot of questions. So I'm going to try today to cover a lot of these to help address them and make you feel a little more comfortable about it. It's going to be informative. I'm going to try to give you as much as possible an example, so you can kind of just see I'm not just talking about something. I'm going to, in a couple cases, I'm going to show you something. So I want it to feel like that. And it's not going to be heavy technical. I'm going to try to keep this as plain and simple English as I can. I don't want to talk about a lot of technology terms. Now, some of them may come up in the presentation, and I'm going to try to explain them as we go along, because there's a couple things you probably want to be aware of that may require a little bit of more than just a real basic item. I will cover, again, a lot of topics, but again, not any of them in a great deal of detail. And assumption is little or no knowledge. My assumption is everyone in this room hasn't got a clue about what we're doing here, so I want it to be very simple, so you guys can have the opportunity to, I'm not talking way out here in high-tech stuff and all, where you're kind of wondering, what's he talking about? I'm going to try to not avoid that. And there will be a question and answer period. I'm going to do that at the end. So the reason is I found, having done a lot of these presentations over the years, that questions and answers can get away from you, and it really eats the time, and we've allotted an hour and a half. I don't think it'll take that long for me, and then whatever's left, we'll certainly do questions for people in the room. We'll turn the lights on for that, and also people on the Zoom meeting have the opportunity to ask questions. I'm going to show you I'm going to talk about various products and vendors and companies and stuff. I'm just so that people understand, I'm not endorsing any of these. I'm not recommending them. Nobody's compensating me to talk about those products. It's just, these are things that a lot of people can relate to, and I want you to kind of see that. So, and again, it is being recorded, so what I want you to do is, okay, just sit back, relax, and enjoy, because we're going to have some fun. And this is our agenda. This is what we're going to cover today. I'm going to do introduction. That's what I basically have done. And I'm going to do some fun facts here in a minute. We're going to talk about technology and how it can help you in your day-to-day lives. And not just things the trust or the management company's doing, but things you can do for yourselves and all to kind of enhance your life. And there's a lot of things that are actually very simple to do that really can make a difference. And we'll talk about that as it affects people that may have some disabilities and all, because technology is going gung-ho about that. We'll also talk about Leisure World's use of technology for residents, what the Trust has done. I've been with them 6 years, and I originally was only going to come work for them for 90 days, and we kept coming up with new things to do. So I've worked on a lot of projects here that you'll see, and we'll talk briefly about those. Well, also how to get connected to the internet. A lot of people ask me, what are the ways, how can I get connected? And I'll get into that. We're going to talk about smart homes and associated devices. This is a huge up-and-coming thing in our society. I actually have a smart home here in Leisure World, and I'm going to show you what I've done. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. And the value it brings to seniors. It really, really takes a lot of the chores that we might normally do and has something to do them for us, and we can spend much more time at our activities and attending things like this. Now this is the one that's probably going to throw you. We're going to talk a little bit about robots. Well, you think, what in the world is he talking about? We'll come back to that, because I've got kind of a neat set of stories to tell you about that. This is will become in the next few years mainstay for as people having computers, people will have robotics in their homes, and I'm going to show you some of that. And cell phones. A lot of people ask me about cell phones, using them and the value of them, and that they're not sure how it'll work or not work or whatever, but I want to be able to talk a little bit about that. And then we want to talk about connecting with your family and friends. I get asked this all the time. What's the best thing to use, or what am I using? Well, a lot of times people end up using what their kids use or their relatives use, but we'll talk a little bit about that, how to video chat. And then our Technology Resource Center. That was what used to be called the Computer Center. Big changes are coming there now. We've got a lot happening, and I'm going to cover that. As you probably all saw by the introductory screen, I'm actually on the board of directors for that. That is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, completely run by volunteers here. In fact, we've got several people here on our board in the presence here with us. So, some fun historical facts. You all might get a couple of chuckles out of this. I saw these and I thought, let me show you a couple of things. So, the oldest calculating device was something called an abacus. It's been around hundreds and hundreds of years. It's something that we use, and actually sometimes you can still learn about this in school. The first mechanical computer, believe it or not, was invented in 1862. It was called the Babbage differential engine. It weighs 700 pounds, a little bit heavier than your cell phone. But that was designed for very basic. I think it had 21 different things it could do, but very, very simple. And then the first computer mouse was made of wood. It's hard to believe, but the very first one that was ever built, the frame of it and all was built out of wood. Kind of an interesting bit of novelty. And then the first internet started, it was in 1969. It was called ARPANET. We talk about the World Wide Web or the internet and all. That was actually not the first one. It was called ARPANET. I had the opportunity, and I worked with the Communications Satellite Corporation to work with that in the 70s. We had a link to NASA. We were collecting data on structural analysis for building spacecraft and all, and we got to have stuff going back and forth. Back then you were running at like 9 or 10, 15, 20 characters a second. You weren't running at millions of characters a second. It was quite different back then. But it worked. In fact, I think at the time we were on it, it was in the dozens, the number of organizations or people that were actually using it. It was done as part of the US government. The next thing is the first cell phone came out in April 1973. If you think about it, that's just 1 year shy of 50 years, and before that there weren't any. The first Apple computer was 1976, and you look at where we're at today with that, how that's all changed. The first webcam was used to monitor a coffee maker so they could tell when it was low on coffee. Crazy, but these are all factual things I checked. The first website did not come out until 1991, and it was all about the World Wide Web project. But that's how new that has been. As a matter of fact, for the first year, you could count. The people in this room, we could each put up maybe 2 fingers, and that's how many websites existed within a year of coming out. But now look at it today. And today, it's estimated there are now over 2 billion websites throughout the world, all in different languages and all. Huge, huge takeover. What it's done for our society is mind-boggling. The first smart cell phone was in 1992, and that was by IBM. And we'll talk later in the presentation. I'll tell you a little bit about the difference between a standard cell phone and a smart cell phone. There's a lot there to be talked about. Total estimated devices, that is mobile devices, that's cell phones or things that might be tablets and all. Worldwide, there's now almost 14 billion of them. And you figure the planet's about 8 billion. That's almost 2 per person, for every person alive. The next one was the percentage of seniors over 60 that have cell phones is about 98%. This is current. And the ones that have smartphones is about 80% have smartphones. It's really changed. In fact, I've watched this for a couple of years, and that is exponentially grown over the last 5 or 6 years. People getting on board. A lot of the younger generation, their kids and all, they're saying, hey, why don't you get this so I can keep in touch with you? And I run into residents here all the time that say, my kid told me to get a cell phone, so I have it. But I want to kind of take a little bit of the fear out of that today. And this is the one I really like. YouTube started off as a dating site. Anybody here watch YouTube? Y'all on YouTube? It is the largest website for having videos on it. And it really started back then I thought that was pretty funny as a dating site. And oh, how things have changed. This is a fun one. A lot of people ask me about, we were talking a little bit about my career. If I now look at this picture, 50 years ago, I might have looked at it as an abstract drawing with a hand that really looked kind of funny. Today, most people might relate that to a robotic hand. And that's actually what it is. It's a robotic hand that exists. So things have changed over the years. You look at this one. This is things that what the future is going to bring us. And then even me today. And then something from the past, 1973. This one I think you'll get a kick out of. This was my very first day on the job at Intelsat. ComSat. That was this right here. That down here is the ComSat building. If you all ever go up 270 towards Frederick, it's on the right-hand side up near Clarksburg. That's their building. That was where their laboratories was at. And that's where I worked for about 7 years. But that's a difference in those pictures of about 49 years. Okay, so how can technology help me day-to-day activities? I want to touch a little bit on this now. So when we look at technology, it comes in a lot of different forms. Sometimes it's not some mystical or magical thing. It is being able to do different things with the right tools. And what I mean by that, a phone is actually a form of technology today. Your smartphones, even your basic phones, that is technology, and it allows me to do different things. I have, in this picture here, I'll show you a laptop. That has a different type of application, and I can actually make phone calls and things like that on some devices. There's smart devices here, and so there's a lot of things out there. You have to look at it when you think of technology. It just isn't something way out in left field. It's a lot of different things you can use to do types of technological advances. Typical, simple, just being on the computer, typing stuff. This gentleman might be typing an email or a letter. And I want to tell you all a quick story. When I was working in the computer center, that's what we called it at the time, I'd gone in there and there was a volunteer with a lady in there that had never used the internet before, ever. And she had just finished showing her how to send her first email. I think she was in her 80s. And she was just absolutely beaming, and she was so surprised it really wasn't as difficult as she thought it was, because somebody took the time to show her. And I think that was cool. These people here are looking at two different types of devices. They're on a laptop and a phone. She's typing something on a laptop, but grabbing something off the phone, two different technologies working together to grab information. Here's somebody doing simple exercises with her phone. So she's got a program she's running to allow her to do exercises and relax in her own environment, her own home, and be able to do things comfortably. And then your typical screen you might see on a tablet. These are all apps, different things people use. You have Facebook here, Twitter, and that's certainly changing these days. We've all been following the news. Google, Gmail, all of these things. LinkedIn is a site for people looking for jobs or putting their history out there. I'm actually out there, it talks about all your history and all. It's pretty cool. So there's a lot of avenues there. And then a typical cell phone, when you bring your screen up, may have your time and clock and all that on it. So, how can it help you day to day? I'm going to give you some ideas of things you can do. Monitor your health and wellness 24/7. This is for you, your family, your friends. If something needs to be done, you can keep track of this, all through technology. And we're going to show you some examples as we move through this today. Help you stay safe. There's a lot of safety things out there, and I'm going to cover a couple of them too, that you can do as we go through the process. I'll show you those too. Very easy to stay in touch with family and friends, etc. I mean, I'm amazed even today how many things I had reached, points where my daughter called me and I got some text messages from people, some phone calls and all, where before it would have been very difficult to get that information and keep in touch with all these various elements and people and all. So there are a lot of easy ways to do that. Alerts family and friends and caregivers if you need something. This technology is there, and I'm going to show you some examples. If something comes up and you had an issue, you could easily contact them and not have to be even trying to go find a phone or something. I'll give you some examples. Helps you researching information. The information that's out there on the web. I know my wife occasionally asks me a question where I don't know the answer, and I'll say, ask Alexa or Google it. And typically, you're going to get the answers or some sort of answer you want on whatever information you are very easily, and I'll give you some examples more today. Provides avenues for entertainment, games, movies, chatting, etc. I mean, it's unlimited, the different types of things that are available to us now through apps or online that just has made it so simple to interact. Keeps you up the news and views of the world. I mean, think about it. Almost anything going on anywhere in the world, you can instantly get information about that. We've never seen such a thing before. Shopping and researching products. I'm sure all of you were like me, probably on the web for Black Friday and yesterday for a day called cyber shopping. That's all about technology, computers, and all the shop. And they're selling billions and billions of dollars worth of goods. But you know, when I go shopping now, and my threshold is $500. If I'm going to spend $500 on something, I'm going to do my research. So I go to different sites and I'll search about that product and see what it is. I go out to YouTube a lot of times and I'll listen to a series of them. So I don't want to go to one person with their biased opinion or maybe biased. I'll look and see what different people are saying. If there's a pattern, then it probably means something. Manage photos and find them quickly. I have thousands and thousands of photos. My wife and I cruise a lot. I've done 34 of them in my life, so I've taken a lot of pictures. And I have them all cataloged now electronically. I can pull them up, I can print them, do whatever I want with very easily. You can manage documents. Right now, I'm doing some projects at home in which I can scan documents in there, pull them, share them, whatever. In fact, my accountant said to me, she's got a family member that has health issues. She no longer is going to have an office. So if you want to do your return, you can electronically send them to her. She'll do them and electronically send them back to you. In fact, she electronically files it for me, all through technology. It's very cool. Access delivery services, food, transportation, and all things that you need to do very easily. You look at all these cottage industries that have started up just to do things like Uber and Lyft and all these food delivery, Grubhub and all those things have all come out of the web being their mechanism for doing their business. And then tools to help individuals with disabilities. And I'm going to cover that because that's really important. There's so many things out there that the tools are there to help people that have things that may not just be obvious. They may be not quite as obvious to the world, but they're things that they can do. And I'm going to cover some of that as we move on. And then there's so much more. All right, now I want to talk a little bit about the management company. And I've asked these questions. A lot of these are, oops, this thing's flying all over the place. A lot of these are projects I've worked on since I've been here. And we're going to talk a little bit about them now. So, high-speed internet. All of us, if you own a home here in Leisure World, under the current contract we have with Comcast, everybody has the ability to have internet access. It's included, it's part of it, and it's amazing. And for me, because I have, and I'll explain it later a little bit more about it, I have 30 devices connected to my box at home. And because I have a smart home and I have a lot of other devices, and what I had to have before, the cost was a lot more than I'm paying now with the service and getting so much more. So it's really, really made a difference. I can have things hooked wired to it or wireless. I chose in my house, I have this box that I got from Comcast, and through the technology, I don't run wires all over my house. It's all interconnected through wireless connections. My computers, my cameras, you'll see a little more, but all these devices are all wirelessly attached. And I'll show you how that can be done. Now the next one is the gate system, and everybody knows in fact you probably have seen me if you've gone up to the Norbeck gate in the last 6 weeks, other than a couple of days I was at Connecticut Avenue. We're currently putting on these RFID tags. And I want to take a minute to tell you a little bit about this because I've gotten a lot of questions. So because we're going to record this, that everybody can hear this all at the same time here and when they go to listen to the video. So there are two parts to the new gate access system. There's what they call credentials access, which is the RFID tags, and that's what we're putting on all the vehicles now. We're taking what was the old tags, and there was about 6,000 vehicles in the community, and for those that want to be on the new system, we're putting the tags on. But we are having to test them because people come in at different angles, and we've learned that the windshield designs are different, so we want to make sure that they work and work well. And the reason we went with RFID, and that's one of the questions a lot of people have asked me, is there were several reasons. There's a couple of different technologies. One of them is license plate reading, and there was concerns about privacy and stuff like that, and it was much more expensive. The other one was these things called, because a lot of residents here are snowbirds who live in Florida, they actually have these barcodes on their cars. And there's two problems with that. One is with the snow up here, if you don't thoroughly clean your windshield, or actually in the case of those, typically on a side window, it can't read those. RFID is a radio signal. That stands for Radio Frequency ID. That's what it stands for. It was developed by the US military years ago for friend or foe. They put it in jets so they knew if it had it in it, they were friendly. But then it's a lot of applications that come on since then. So the other reason we couldn't go with the barcodes or the other one was the readers that we had to have would have to go out past the guardhouses. And at the main gate, just past that gate is not our land. It belongs to the county. So what we had to put on was in front of the guardhouse, as you come in actually behind the guardhouse, where we read the tags and allow it to work. And then when I was speaking to them and we were looking at this, we asked about longevity of this, and they said most everybody will get rid of their car or move away from the community or whatever before the tag goes back. They typically just last and last and last. So that's the RFID side. The other side is the visitor management. People are asking me about that. We already own it. It's already in place for some testing. I've actually had it and been using it for about a year. It is extremely easy to use. It shares the same database that the RFID does. It's a product called Dwelling Live, and it allows you to still do your 8 visitor passes that you do now with where you go to the headquarters, or excuse me, the admin building, and you request the passes every year. I don't have to do that anymore because I've been testing the system. I do it electronically, and I can change those 8 people anytime I want. If I want to say, okay, I have a daughter who lives in Colorado. She didn't always live in Colorado, so now I don't have her on a regular list of my 8. I have her where she can be an on-demand visitor. So I can set those 8 up. I can have it to where I might have occasional visitors, like I have a housekeeper that comes in. So I can restrict her that she can only come in certain days on certain hours, and any other time she can't come in. I can also set it to where if I was to have a party and I wanted to invite a whole bunch of people, I can put them into the system. I can create a spreadsheet, copy it over their email. I can send that an email blast or a text message to all those people with all the information about my party, and it could be on a particular day at a particular time, and it's done. And then security has that information. I don't have to call in each one individually. I can do it as a bulk setup. So it really, really makes it a whole lot easier for me to manage it. That is probably still several months away. We need to finish, or the management has made the decision, they'd like to finish up with the RFID tags before they introduce that. And when they go to introduce it, you're going to get an invitation to join the website. It'll be a one-time passcode. You'll sign in, and then you can set up your passes for everybody. It's real simple. There's a video to train you. Really, really easy to use. I think you all are going to really like it. It's used all over the world. It's a very robust system. And so I would suspect probably first, second quarter somewhere. I'm not really sure what the exact date that they want to do that, but they do want to get the other tags done. Okay. Next one is the emergency notification system. I wanted to bring this up, and I'll tell you why. When emergency occurs, it's really important that everyone gets notified. So this has been set up to where the trust can send a global one out to every resident that's registered. Now what that means is that through your mutual, you've been put into the system to where you can receive notifications. There's 3 ways that you can get a notification from the system. And here they are. I can get a text message, I can get an email, and I can get a phone call. And I'm going to tell you, you want to do all 3. And here's why. If you remember 9/11, when all that happened, try making a phone call that day. I don't know if any of you tried. It was darn near impossible. Where if I go all 3 ways, I have a much better chance that one of those ways might be working okay for me to get the notification that I need. And when I get a text message or I get an email, I get notification on my phone that I've received it. So it's not like it's just sitting there waiting for me. I can get an automatic notification that that message has popped up. So that's there, and then each mutual has the ability to send it out to just people in their mutual. They could even go as far as to say, for those of you that live in high rises, if you had a particular set of units that were down one side of the building and they needed to turn the water off for them, they could send it to just that group of people if they wanted to. So that's called One Call Now. It's a very robust system, and it really works well. But if you're not signed up, I really highly recommend it because it does give them the avenue to do that. And you would do that through your mutual. Their property management team can help you get that set up. What did I just do? Would help to hit the right button. Okay, websites. People are always asking about the websites, and they're kind of going, why is it the way it is? Well, there's been a lot of discussion about that. We actually have 3 different types of websites, or for 3 different purposes in the community. For those of you that don't know, we actually have what we call an outward-facing website. It's called Leisure World Maryland, with Maryland spelled out. That gives you a wealth of information about the community, and it's public. Anyone throughout the world can open that up and look at it. It covers a lot of topics. It's very easy to read. If you or you had somebody or whatever was interested more in the community or they wanted to know about it, it's a great place to go to learn about a lot of things in the community. That's standalone by itself. Then we have one called residents.lwmc.com, which has a lot of content. It does need a refresh, but a lot of content is there, and that gives you the ability to see things throughout the entire community. So, and then from that, there are websites for all the mutuals. Everybody has their own websites, and if they have one that's through the same platform that the resident site is on, which is lwmc.com, then there's a link directly from that one to your particular mutual. And so you could pass back and forth, sign on once and go back and forth. I do that frequently. I live in Montgomery Mutual, and I go back and forth between my mutual and that one, and I can look up things that I can only see in Montgomery Mutual. The beauty of that is that unless you live in that mutual, other people can't see that. It's only available to those people in that mutual specifically for them. So that's a little highlight of the three. I backed myself up. Look at that. Wasn't that cute? Okay, so that's the websites. And now the other thing that we're getting ready to look at is resident smart ID cards. That is in the works. It's under review. It's something actually we've been looking at and talking about for a period of time. And this is a little bit more than this little plastic laminated card that we have now that we show people when your car. I don't think the guards can quite read it from the car, but they just see the outline of it. So this one now will be electronic that will allow you access to all kinds of services. Like if you wanted to go to the fitness center, you would have a card, there would be a lock there, and you'd lock it, and then they track that you're there, so they know who's there. It helps with safety, things like that. If you wanted to go to an event, register for an event, you could use that. Go get access to buildings, you could use that card. And then you could show that for whatever you needed to. And they're very, very prevalent. In fact, most of the communities similar to ours that I've talked to all already have those in place. So that is something that's being looked at. It can tie into this Dwelling Live system to where we have one database and everything can be shared back and forth, and it will allow them to track who's gone where and all, which is, again, for safety. You go to most assisted living places, a lot of them have systems similar to that. But for us, it would be a good fit here. The other thing that has come up, and I don't know if you all are aware of this, but the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, a few years back, has made a decision that the use of copper wire in this country is going to go away. So one of the things I've been working on in the last few months is identifying all of our phone lines, not our telephone system, which is what they call a voice over IP system, which is all internet-based phone, to the older style phones which were under copper wire. And in the community, we use those for things like our elevator phones. We use it for alarm systems, fax lines, which we really got rid of a lot of those, but all of those are on the wires. We actually have about 350 lines so far that I've identified that we're going to be looking at moving them to a newer generation to do stuff and look at find ways we can save money to do that. So that is also in the works. So this technology-wise for the trust, while there's a lot of other things that I could talk about as the sake of time, I'll just kind of leave it at the big ones. I will mention a couple other ones. One of the ones we did, I don't know if you all work with Social Services Department. When I came here, they used to use index cards to keep track of everybody. They now have a computerized system that we brought up that they now can pull up records in a couple of seconds, where before they used to have to go find a card. So that's been working well. All right, getting connected to the internet. Okay, I mentioned that we have this service with Comcast, which again is every single home here. All 5,660 homes have the ability to get a cable box for internet in their home. It's included in your service. So it's included in our fees. It's a nominal fee for that. But I can then connect to that box. I can hardwire it where I actually run a cable from my computer to it. Or in the case of me, I do it through the Wi-Fi. I also have the ability, if I wanted to connect through my cell phone, which is not necessarily through the Comcast line. It's using my cell phone service that I can now get in and do internet type things through that. So oops, sorry, tricky finger there. So the idea is that depending on what you want to do and how you want to do it, you have a lot of availability. And to get in there and tie your home into the Comcast service, it's pretty straightforward. Comcast helps you do it. They have all the service techs to come out and do it or help you over the phone. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a second. So, a lot of you might have a box sitting in your home that, oh boy, am I just going crazy here, aren't I? What did I just do? Ah, hello? The darkness here. I don't know what I just did.
It's your escape.
I can't see it.
There you go.
Oh, there it is. Sorry about that. That was my handy-dandy finger there. There we go. So this is the box that you would have gotten from Comcast, and there's two of them, two styles. I'm going to show them here in a minute. The first one that we ever had, most everybody got, was a black one, and that one, and again, forgive me for all this technical stuff, but that is how it was set up. You can have your telephone running through it. You can have your wireless connections to it, wired connections to it. So it gave you a lot of flexibility, and those model numbers at the top, and that's the reason I'm telling you that, is those are the older models. They have a newer one, and I'm going to explain that here in a second, and that's one that looks like this. It's a white one. It's what I have in my house. And the reason I went that route, it was a much more advanced, it's faster, it allowed me more connections, and if you look over here, if you look up here, you see the 100, and you see over there it's 30 and 75. I can have a whole lot more devices in my home. You say, well, why does that affect me? One of the things it does is my maximum throughput, and that all depends on what they're feeding us. But and I hooked this up, I noticed things were much faster than the old one. But see, it has the Wi-Fi, Affinity X5 eligible, advanced security. The security they put in there is very good. I'm very impressed with it. What you get from Comcast that comes with our service, to be able to be safe in what you do. And when I wanted to go to this white one, all I did is I walked into the store at Connecticut Avenue and I said, I want to get the new box. They said, no problem. I walked out 10 minutes later, took it home, unboxed it, followed the instructions. 15 minutes later, I was up and working. That simple. So that is something you might want to consider if you haven't already done it. It's free to us. And it's the newer generation for them. They've added a lot of features and all that. Really, for them, for their perspective, it's a good thing for everybody. It's a win-win for them and us to go that route. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about smart homes. And this is actually a thing that's near and dear to my heart because I've embraced this at home, and I have found it very, very helpful. I can monitor my home. I can watch it 24/7. I can see what's going on. I can do a lot of different things that would normally be chores that I might have needed to do that now I can have the system do it. Like, I can look up for security and safety. I can have it monitor water leaks. And I don't know if any of you, sometimes I hear things about high-rises where water's leaking and causes damage. And those that have a garage door, the garage door static, where they have smoke and gases in my home. This is all automated, not just on an alarm going off, but where I could have my family and my friends, or whoever I wanted to, be aware that this is going on too. Or if I wasn't home, or something may have happened, I might have an alarm go off to them. I could do that if I wanted to. When your doorbell rings, when my doorbell rings, it's taking a picture of the person, it's sent in my house, and I'm getting an email or text message saying somebody's at your door, and I'm seeing who's standing at my door. And I can choose to let them in or not let them in. And I can let them in remotely. I could be out in the Pacific Ocean, and I can do that as long as I'm on a ship with internet. And I can see if something's plugged in. If I forgot to unplug something, I could see, is that working or not working? I forgot to turn something off. Maybe it was, again, that's back to safety. The other thing is energy savings. I have a smart thermostat in my house, so I can have it control and have it learn what I like at night or like it cold. And I don't have to remember to turn down. It'll turn down for me, and when I get up in the morning, it can be already back up for me. So then I can have it monitor my status, my usage, and all that stuff, and help potentially save me some money. And so those are that's another area you could do. The other one is, I mentioned the smart lock. My house has a keypad, and it also has a key. The key is the same key that I got from the mutual or got from the property when I bought it. So I can still use that, security has that. However, if I needed to get into my home, I can, through my mobile app, get in there and go into my house or let somebody in if I needed to. That's available to me. So anytime I can do that. The other thing is you can perform tasks through smart assistants, and I'm going to show you that in a little bit, what they mean. Things such as Google Home or Amazon Echo, and we'll be talking a little bit more about that as we move on. And the other thing that's really is being able to have a lot of the appliances that I have help me save energy or do things automated. It's very cool. So just a couple of things to look at from the big picture there. I can also control lighting in my home. I converted all my home over to this LED lights now, which are a couple of watts versus 60 watts or whatever. Well, everybody saves from that and being able to save energy costs. So smart home devices, I want to show you a few of them. This is a thing called Amazon Echo. It's a video in which I can hook up to the internet and I can do a world of things. I can look at photos, I can have video chats with family and friends, I can get the weather report, I can get announcements, notifications, and see it all visually. It's very cool. But that's one of the options. This is a smart lock. This is actually the same lock I have in my house. It has a keypad and then below is the key. And I can go ahead and give somebody a code if I want to do. They come punch the code and the door unlocks for them. It's very cool. Next one is a programmable thermostat. I can set this up to set the temperatures. I can set it for air conditioning, heating, cooling, off. It also reminds me when I need to change my filter. I don't have to remember. I can get a notification that my filter needs to be changed. So I have a lot of things there. Devices to control outlets that I might want to have lights go on or an appliance go on or something go off. I can do that through this system. The other one is your specialty ones. I even have them out on my patio where I can hook in appliances or something, and in case I go in, if I forget to turn it off, I can have the system say, okay, at 7 o'clock at night, whatever's on out there, turn it off. And I don't have to remember, it does it for me. Now, smart robots. These have come a long ways. They're so smart that they can avoid objects. This happens to be the iRobot Roomba J7 Plus. And that one is smart enough that it can detect, you name the object on the floor. They have a whole bunch of them already programmed, and you can pick them and add them to it. Even if your doggy does something on the floor, it can see that and avoid it. In fact, they have a guarantee that if it does number 2 on the floor, if it hits it, they'll send you a new machine free. That's how smart it is. That's pretty impressive. The other one here is light bulbs. Smart light bulbs. They can do lots of things. Change, dim lights, turn lights on, turn lights off. Do all kinds of things. Even create a mood if you wanted to. And then cameras. I told you I had cameras in my house. I can set up safety cameras inside my house, outside my house, and be able to look at things if I want. And I'm going to come back to that a little bit more when I get onto what I have at my house, just so you're aware. Now I have a couple of videos I'd like for you to watch. Just going to tell you a little bit about this. I think it's about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes long. Thank you.
Hello viewers. In this video, we are going to see about a fascinating technology that jumps straight out of sci-fi movies, smart home technology. In the digital world, connectivity is the key to functionality. Smart home technologies do not just make humans' jobs simple, but also address critical issues like global warming, climate change, and renewable energy by automating energy consumption process. Let us start by knowing what exactly is smart home technology. Smart home technology generally refers to any suite of devices, appliances, or systems that connect into a common network which can be independently and remotely controlled. Simply put, home automation is the ability to control items around the house from window shades to pet feeders with a simple press of a button or a voice command. Since we came clear about smart home technology, let us go through some of the smart home devices that make a perfect connected home. Smart security locks. Smart locks offer a variety of features including door and window sensors, motion detectors, video cameras, and recording mechanism. Accessible via cloud, users get real-time information on the security status of the home. Smart thermostat. Smart thermostats typically allow users to schedule their desirable temperature settings and incorporate it into the home automation systems. With the smart device, users can monitor their HVAC from wherever they are. Light automation. Robot vacuums can be controlled from the user's smart devices, including smart speakers, making the cleaning process easy. Smart health sensors. Having smart sensors throughout the home that will keep tabs of residents' health and look for signs of illness. Further, in case of an emergency, it can remotely connect with medical practitioners and alert caretakers. Shape-shifting furniture. Using shape-shifting furniture, smart home residents can change the shape and function of the furniture on command, thus helping save space in smaller homes and apartments. While connecting the smart home appliances to a smartphone or any other connected control unit is a huge convenience, there are many other advantages of smart home technology. It helps people have a greater awareness of where their resources are being used and for what. So, given so many interesting benefits, wouldn't you like to live in a smart home?
So what I was trying to show you there is how all this stuff can actually tie together. And with me just talking, actually see some examples there. It has come a long ways. And now what I'd like to do is I'd like to show you what I'm doing in my home. And I want to add a caveat to this. If you decide you want to do something like this, talk to your mutual first, because they may have some rules related to this that you may or may not be able to do. I had reached out to mine before I did anything to make sure it was okay. So, as I said, I have a lock on my door. I actually programmed it to where every night at a certain time, it locks my door for me. Whether I remember it or not, my door gets locked by the system. And it monitors it. I could even have it unlock it for me if I wanted to at a certain time. So I know I'm safe and I don't have to worry about that I remember to lock my door. The other thing is I can remotely unlock it through my smartphone or my computer. So I have those options, or I can have the system just do it automatically for me. I manage my heating and cooling, I program my thermostat. I have it set that my wife is actually part Icelandic. She likes it cold, colder than I do. So I can have it set at night to turn it down to a certain temperature. And when I'm ready to get up in the morning, I can have it, before I'm ready to get up, move that temperature back to what I like during the day. Whether it's heat or cold or whatever, I can have it turn it on, turn it off. And it can monitor my usage. I can see how much energy I'm using, what I'm doing. And with the price of heating costs, and you all know electricity and all in this area, the costs are skyrocketing. What can you do to help control that a little bit? And this does help. And then I can I have cameras sitting outside my house. I have them inside and outside. Now, this is where you really got to be careful, because you don't want to be aiming this at your neighbor's houses. And there's a lot of rules on that. But I have it so that if anybody comes to the front of my house, or the side of my house, or the back of my house, or even it comes inside the house at the front door, I've got photos of them. I know exactly who's there, when they were there, and it keeps a history of it for me. So it gives us a peace of mind for safety. Like I said, I have it all set up. They're all tied in. I automatically get a notification when one of them goes off. I can control it, or even to look at if I've got, whether it's an animal a vehicle, a person, a package being delivered, it can actually tell me what's going on there. I can also control my outlets and lights. I actually have it set up to where certain things will go on and certain things will go off, and I can do certain things at certain times of the day. And then I'm also using the artificial intelligence devices for reminders. Like at the first of each month, there's about 10 things I need to do on the first of every month. And I have my artificial devices, and I don't have to do it all at the same time. Throughout the morning will remind me that I need to give my dog a certain medication on the first of every month. I need to change my air filter outside. It reminds me to do that. There's nothing yet to do that for me. I have to do that on myself. Even though the mutual gives us ones, I choose to use a different one, so I change it every month automatically using that. So I have all those. They're all programmed in. It's all part of my smart home, and it's all tying that together. Also, I have some smart appliances. I have a washer and dryer that actually learns as it does things. It looks at what clothes I have in there, how much is in there, and adjusts the water and temperatures and all automatically for me, and I can also tie that into my smart home. I have a printer that I have at home that's all wireless, that all of its maintenance, its updates for the software, as well as the ordering of ink cartridges is all done automatically for me. I don't have to do it. It's all web-based. And then I have an air purification system in the house that it automatically tracks when I need to clean it, and automatically sends me for the HEPA filter, which is the most important one on there. I have a 5-stage system. It automatically sends it when I get to a certain level. I don't have to even think about it. It'll just show up at my house. And that really helps make it quite a bit easier. And then managing devices, and I can look at their condition, like if something may be broken or something may have an issue. And then I can do that. Also looking, as I mentioned earlier, consumable supplies. All right. I mentioned earlier, I promised you all we would have this thing with robots here. And we're going to do that now. So, some robot facts. People always ask, what is a robot? Robot came from, it's actually a word that means drudgery, hard work, or forced labor. That's what they'll do. They'll actually do all this forced labor for you. And it comes from the Czech word of robota. Then a robot is a mechanical device. It can do things automatically or remote controlling. And then there's telerobots that actually operate by remote control. And then there's the chatbots, which they're actually a form of a robot, is Amazon Alexa, Google Assist, Apple Siri. Those are all automated programs that can interact with people and do things. They can not only communicate with you, they can actually do things on your behalf. And actually that's an integral part of my smart home, is having those devices working. And then of course there's robot pets, and I'll explain a little bit more about that in a little bit. This video, I think you're going to get a kick out of. And this is kind of, when I started seeing these things pop up, and really it's really been a mainstay for people about the last 5 or 6 years. And what you're going to now see in the 2020s is this becoming a item which you're going to see in people's homes. Amazing amount of them. So let's watch this. I got a kick out of this one. Do it a little bit. Up, wrong one. That always helps to have a little bit of light.
Hi, I'm Sam.
This Zoom, this thing is really starting to kill me here.
I live alone and I love it. Every day is full of...
Well, I hope you all can hear that.
Should I dial emergency services?
No, I'm fine. Believe me, this thing wasn't my idea. But I've got to admit, it's growing on me. I'm in better touch with my family, especially my grandson. Talented kid. It reminds me to do stuff I'd prefer to forget.
It's time to check your weight. 180 pounds. Would you like to exercise today?
Breathe in to your legs. Very good.
Now I can even get a checkup without having to go to my doctor's office.
Pretty good, Sam.
Don't sound so surprised, Doc. I've even started teach an old dog new tricks. The kids really like that they can get in touch with me anytime.
Hi, Dad. What's up?
Just taking my meds, sweetheart. Like I said, I like living alone. But I'm open to other possibilities.
So what you saw there was a gentleman whose family encouraged him to get something like this, and he now uses it as part of his life to do a lot of things. Now this product that you just saw on the other one is actually a company called TEMI, T-E-M-I, that they've developed these for individuals. The ones that are in white, like that one, are actually more medically oriented, to do things for people that may need medical assistance, either in a medical facility or at home. So they're out there, they're not tens of thousands of dollars. In this case, the one you saw run a couple of $1,000s. This one's even cheaper. This is what is about to hit the market for Amazon.
A robot?
Yes.
What are we going to do with a robot?
Well, Astro, follow me.
Hi, Grandma. I miss you.
I miss you too. Hey, you got the toy I sent.
Yeah, I love it. Astro, follow
Cool. All right, Raisha.
me. Come on.
Told you I turned it off.
And now I totally believe you. Ooh, yikes.
Message from Steve. Remember to eat something green today, Dad.
Check.
Hey, Barbara. Just returned the dog.
Astro, let's dance.
Thought we weren't home, huh? You thought wrong. Good try, though.
Thank you.
Oh, I got this. John, can you turn the light on for me, please? I want to show you all something that really, to me, takes technology to a whole different level. going to introduce you to somebody called Freckles. Thank you, John. Can you all see this? So this is Freckles. He is actually a robot. It's heavily used for people with dementia or people that would like a companion at home. He's activated by listening to my voice, his touch. So I can actually have it, it's almost like having a real pet. When I want it to do things, he can turn his head and interact with me, he barks. And the beauty of this is you don't have to spend a lot of money. It's something very simple, but it's something if somebody who had, and they've demonstrated, to where people with dementia or something like that, they respond very well to something like this. He can react, he'll stay up and keep interacting with me. If I don't do something for a period of time, he goes to sleep and I go back to him, he'll wake back up, he'll turn his head, he's barking. And to me, it's just an amazing way in which technology can come to somebody. You're not having to worry about spending on computers and stuff like that. And I'll tell you, and I'm not advocating everybody has to run out and buy this thing, but this is about $100 for something like this. It's really a very cool thing to do and have somebody around the house. Now they're coming out with lots of different ones to do this for people, but he's responding to my voice and he's responding to my petting him. So you can see it's almost like having a real dog, and they're a lot of fun to play with. He's wagging his tail as I'm talking to him, and I can set him down here. In fact, we'll leave him here for the rest of the show, and you can see him kind of interacting with us. Yeah, Freckles. Hey, buddy. How you doing? Huh? So that's kind of showing you a little bit about robotics. I mentioned 3 different types of ones here. One is the guy with the medical stuff that interact a little differently. And then the other one, which is Amazon. Amazon is coming out, that's called Astro. You all remember the Jetsons when we were kids? At the end of it after Astro. And that one, that's due to come out, I believe, next year. They're actually having a demo state right now. They'll run for like around $1,500 and be able to do a lot of that. And it can interact with your home cameras and things like that, your smart home, and be able to do things. And it's just another way in which technology can come to your home. It can be set up and be able to do things for you. See, I'm just looking around at you all. Okay, so let's move on now to well, we'll come back to questions here at the end. Let's talk a little bit about cell phones. So, when we talk about cell phones, there are really 2 different kinds. There are plain simple smartphones, and then there are plain simple cell phones, and then there are smartphones. And a lot of people, I have a lot of friends that just have a cell phone, which will be able to make calls, maybe get a text message, and some even have a camera on them. That's about it. They don't do much more. And then there's the smartphones, and the smartphones can do almost anything a regular computer can do. It has thousands of apps available to you, and you can set them up to be able to do all these different things. And here's some of the ideas that they can do. I can text, entertainment, I can watch movies, I can play games, I can look at, I can tell time, alarms, locations. If I want to see what time it is in another country, or I'm going to go there, I can see that. I can set up reminders and necessary notes if I want to have notes about myself, and have alarms go off on my phone wherever I'm at. I can view real-time news, events. I can have certain things go off based on keywords. I can research and learn about other subjects. Crime prevention. I can have my phone do things to help me with that. Video chat with individuals. There's a lot of different tools you can do that. I can manage calendars, work remotely if I needed to do something. Again, very simple. Whenever I travel, I use my phone to read my text messages or emails from back at work or something if I want. I can organize my activities. I can look at maps. Like I take my phone and tie it into my car because I have a GPS on it, and I can actually use it like Google, and it gives me all the stuff where all the restaurants are, how long for me to get there. All very, very cool. And then online banking. And the one thing I want to add is the caveat is all of this stuff, you have to be security conscious. And I think that's probably a good topic. Leisure World ought to offer, the CLO maybe offer stuff on security for technology. This is something you need to be very cognizant of. And then manage address books and contacts. I keep all that there. And then emergencies and special activities. And then again, the list goes on. There's calculators, flashlights, compasses. It's amazing what you can do with them. But it's really how you want to implement it, what you want to do, and what you want to bring to the forefront with it. You okay, Freckles? Huh, buddy? Okay. So, now, connecting to family and friends. A lot of people are always asking me about this. Now, I think I mentioned earlier on that a lot of times we end up using tools or systems maybe other family member has used. Like, my family is really big into WhatsApp. And WhatsApp is a tool. What I like about it is I can be anywhere in the world and I can connect with my family, and I may not have cell service because what service I have is only good in the US, where I can go on a cruise ship or I go to another country. As long as I have an internet connection, I can video chat with them, I can talk with them, I can text with them, and it's all secure end to end, so nobody can interject with that or steal something. But then there's Skype and there's Zoom, as we have here, Facebook, FaceTime, which is a very good tool, but what you'll fully find is what your family uses. But learning a couple of these certainly doesn't hurt. Facebook has got a whole process in place. Being in the dark has made it a little bit challenging. And then I can do this from a number of devices, my smartphone, tablets, AI devices like Alexa, PCs, laptops, etc. I'm not limited to just one type of device to be able to go ahead and connecting with my family or my friends. I can do that. You saw people, a couple of them doing that on some of the videos I had, where they were actually chatting with somebody else. And again, it's pretty simple to use, and it's just, I would go by, if you have a friend or a family member that's doing it, see what they're doing, and that's another one we probably could have a talk on. And then now I want to talk about something that's also near and dear to my heart. By the way, we're getting close to the end here. And that's the Technology Resource Center. That's what used to be called the Computer Center. It's been around since the early 1990s. It is, again, a nonprofit 501c3. It's here in this building. And it has a lot to offer people. The pandemic was very difficult for us, getting people to man it. That's changing. We're kind of coming back. The name Technology Resource Center is very new. That's just changed in the last couple of months. And we're now moving into a new arena of things that we're going to be offering to residents, basically in most all cases free of charge. This is the entrance to the center with the hallway. It's just down the hallway past the lifestyle office. This is inside. Over here we have an area where we have Mac computers. And you'll see the one on the right's a little bit larger. It has a different keyboard. That's for people with disabilities. We actually have specialty keyboards and specialty mice and larger screens if they need stuff for viewing. We've also had connections with the Lions Club and helped a lot of people with other disabilities come in to use it. We actually had, one day we had a room full of individuals in the community who were blind, and they had one blind person teaching them all how to use some of the tools. There's a lot of free tools available to them that they can get on and use computers and all. And I want to touch upon that real quickly, because one of the things that is happening, a lot of seniors in the community, some people come in and everything's fine, and then their health may change based on factors, and sometimes people may lose their sight, and they get scared. And these are ways in which we can help those types of people, and looking at some of these other organizations like the Lions Club becomes very helpful. So we even have our own little museum. This is actually a lot of parts, not the computer on the right, but things that I've collected over the years and what they used to look like. You can actually see some of the stuff from the 70s and 80s. And then we have a whole bank of PCs. We also have some for specialty ones there. And now what we're doing is we're starting to have a display area for smart devices. So our goal is to have it to where you can come into the center and be able to look at these devices and try them. So you don't have to go out and buy them, you can actually see what they look like. We've actually got some we've started setting up, that's fairly recent, in which they can, oh my gosh, look what I just did. sorry. What did I just do? Oh, there it is. It's back. So that's the center there. And then we have the smart devices that you can come in and look and try and play with if you like. And then this is now what we actually have in the center. If you look here, we've got PCs and laptops. If you want to come in and you just play with them and try them, you can do that. We've got Mac PCs, I showed you that. We've got a couple of those you can come play with. We do have color and black and white laser printing. If you want to copy something, print something, or scan something, you can come there. If your printer's broken at home or you don't have one, we have a lot of people that come in that don't have them at home. They come in and print, and we've got the best prices in town. We do charge. The only thing we charge for is the printing and copying. It's 10 cents for black and white and 25 cents for color, which is pretty reasonable. And then we have some of the smart devices on display. And then we do have a wireless network in there, which we've set up. And then special keyboards and mice, which I also mentioned already. And then the resources now, these are things that are now, we have available, which we're coming back up on more and more, one-on-one help and questions on a number of technologies you can ask for Androids or Apples and all. If you don't know, just call the center. They can point you to who might be able to help you. We have some lists of names of people that might be able to help answer questions. Work areas for users to access the wireless network. You can actually come in there and not necessarily use one of our computers. If you just want to be in there and work, you can. If you're at home and somebody's there, if you need an area to come and do something, you can. Again, print, copy, scan, if you want to scan something. And tools to help people with disabilities, I mentioned that. And then this is what's in the works. These are things that we're looking at doing. The Apple Club, which you've all known has been around for years, that is now being merged with this center. So all of those members will become part of this. And our goal is now to make this a club to where you can join and get a lot of specialty resources for helping you with stuff. And then we have a whole slew of training things coming up that we're going to be working and partnering with other organizations throughout the country to be able to offer a lot of different training on all kinds of subjects. Simple ones, complex ones, and all. We're also going to be redoing our website. We have a website that's been around now for 4 or 5 years. And then the technology devices to review, we want to enhance that and really add to that, where you can come in and try things and play with them and ask questions. And if we see people are asking for the same type of thing, we'll look at adding that to it. Again, look at becoming a club. Okay, so that's my presentation. I apologize for my technical issues I had here with my volume control, but doing it in the dark was a little challenging. So what I'd like to do now is open it up for questions. We're going to go back and forth. You're going to look at the Zoom for me, and then in the room. So with that, does anyone have questions? Show of hands. I'm going to repeat your question so everybody can hear you, and then we'll take it from there. You can go first.
Well, thank you very much for your overview. This has been fantastic, very helpful,
Thank you.
And so on. So my question really is, a lot of these technology, often in practice, in practicality for people in our age, they're not going to do. It's just too much. So if you have to think of 3 technologies or devices that someone at a specific age should have or need to have, I'd like to know about that. The second question has to do with the smartphone. We have all these apps. I went away for Thanksgiving and they got me on Spotify, they got me on the books, they got me on Uber, but I would need somebody to help me to get those apps. I would not do that. And then
Let me answer your first question first.
Sorry.
Okay, so her question had to do with the complexity of all the technologies out there and what would somebody really be able to do? Then probably not. It's probably very difficult. So it's just like anything in life. We have a tendency to draw the things that meet our needs at that moment. And you look at, let's take Freckles here. And that's actually the name of this dog. It's Freckles, if you go to their website. If somebody needed, and you might find it from outside factors suggesting this to you, that if you had somebody with dementia or something that needed to have some sort of comforting thing, they may want to look at this. Or if you are somebody that wants to be able to communicate more with friends and be able to do it easily, then you might want to look at a tablet or a cell phone, a smartphone, to be able to do that, and then focus your attention on finding how to learn about that. A couple of good resources are the technology resource desk. That's some people that will help you. People come in all the time and go, I don't have any idea how to do any of this. I just got this. And they'll spend time with you. Or going to even YouTube, and you can pull up that I want to learn about a cell phone. There are so many things out there. So it really is you focusing on what is it you need. It's needs versus the wants, and what tools are there. I'm not at all advocating everybody here go and do all this stuff I've suggested. It's just, these are things that are out there. Maybe what you want to do is have something like the robot from Amazon. And you go, okay, well, that's a little bit of money. However, that thing has artificial intelligence. You can learn, and you can have it do a lot of the things for you, like make your phone calls, like monitor the stuff for you. All the things that are important to you, you need to do is finding those tools that will meet your needs. And I hope I'm answering your question, because it's a real difficult one to say what's best for each person. That's how I would approach it, is finding what is it that I need to be able to meet my needs. Let me finish your questions here. Hold 1 second. 1 second. Let me finish her here. So you asked then about the cell phones. Ask me the question again.
Well, with the cell phones and even the tablet, it's realizing that, okay, there is this app that can help me. I don't have to get a Kindle. I can get my books on my iPad. Very basic stuff that a lot of a 10-year-old would know, and that translation into someone older. So it is, some of the things that are very obvious. You're almost embarrassed to ask some young person, how do I do this? I didn't know how to get Spotify or music and so on. So I guess my question is, where can we go within our community to get that assistance?
Okay, so what she's doing is asking if to learn about using her tablet or her cell phone, where can she get resources or information about how to learn how to do some specific things such as Spotify and all. And back to the resource center, that is an avenue you can go to. Can't guarantee every question you have, they'll always be able to answer it, but at least help point you in the right direction, because we do have some experts that are focused on the Apple side. We have some that focus on the Android for the cell phones, and then we have the Windows side or the Mac side, that if you had questions to do that. And again, it's taking it back to its simplest form. What is it you need? What would be helpful to you as an individual? Forget the technology. This is what I want to be able to do. Which tools would be there to best meet that need? And I know if you asked me, I would use the old keep it simple, stupid, KISS approach, if you all heard that term before. Don't make it complicated, keep it simple. But a cell phone is, what is nice about it is small, it's easy to carry around. They do make some with larger screens. And the sky's the limit, what's on there that you can do. It's amazing. My wife had a bad accident at work years ago, and she has issues with remembering things, and it's challenging for her. So she's constantly asking me, and I'm always trying to find something for her that's simple, that to load it all up with all these applications and all, it's just overwhelming. So she needs to decide what's important to her, what she want to do, and then give her those tools. Like she's flying, she likes to fly. She got a couple airlines, so we put those apps on there, and I showed her how to use those. But keep that simple. And I hope I'm answering your question. Is that what you were looking for?
I would say to her that a very good resource is YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube is the other
Type in
one.
YouTube what you want to learn.
Yep.
Like how do I use Spotify?
Yep,
You
YouTube,
can
and that's
watch a 10-minute video.
Yeah, I had mentioned that earlier. The YouTube is a great
The
resource.
great thing about it is you can hit pause while you're watching it.
And watch it over and over again
Yeah.
if you want to learn something. Even me, when I go to learn something, because I'm in the field doesn't mean I know everything. When I go to do something, I'll watch it and then I'll try it, then I'll rewind it, listen to it again, and rewind it again. And after a while, I gradually get it and remember it. But that's the beauty of that. It's a great resource. And there are other ways out there too. Sometimes the manufacturers have ones, but YouTube, the beauty of that is just so much, the vastness out there. It's endless, endless. Did you have another question?
Well, I was wondering about safety and security. We just had a blackout, and in this situation, people on my floor, I had a lot of very frightened, confused people. No one knew what was going on. One woman had a deadlock. We couldn't get her out. She couldn't get in. You know, what is it, as you know, when you talk about safety and devices, a power outage of that level, there was no communication about what happened, how.
Yeah.
So I wondered if the Master Community Association could look at that. and see
So,
what-
yeah, well, you brought up, she's asking about safety and security with the blackout we just had the other night. Some residents ran into some issues, and how can that be done? And honestly, at a mutual level and as a community level, there needs to be like a business continuity plan. What do we do in the event of a disaster? Every place I ever worked for before, we always had one of those, that if we lost power, and I know as part of my smart home, I actually have a solar-powered power center. If you drove down my street the other night, looked in my house, my lights were on. And I did it for under $1,000. So, and it's very safe batteries, and I can recharge it with the solar. So if power didn't come back for days, I can, as long as the sun's up, hopefully that comes up every day, I can keep my energy going. But that's an option. But that does need to be done. Yes, ma'am.
I love to learn about technology because it seems to be changing daily. But I have a very basic question. I live in a high-rise, the Greens actually, and I have a iPhone 13. My carrier is Verizon, and I cannot make a phone call outside of my apartment. I can't get any connection.
So she's asking about her cell phone. She has a iPhone 13, and she's got Verizon, and she's having connectivity problems. And let me explain a little bit about, did I have that right? So, cell service is an interesting animal. There's a whole lot of factors that go into getting good cell service. And it has to do with the carriers, and it has to do with you hear this thing called 5G and 4G. Now, I don't want to get too technical here, but everybody know what I'm talking about when I say that, 5G, 4G? It's the generations of technology and how fast it's operating and what its capabilities are. The new one now is called 5G. So each of those has, even though they could be the same carrier, each of those can have different issues and factors. And it also depends on where you're actually at with your equipment and what the surroundings are of your equipment. Like if I'm in a building, like here, down here, probably most of you probably won't get real good cell service down here because it's a signal that's going out and it's affected by all those. And where the carriers are at and where their towers are at. You see all the towers around, how far you're from it. And I noticed the 8 years I've lived here almost, there used to be Sprint, T-Mobile, Verizon, and AT&T. Those were the four primary ones. There are other ones out there, but most of them, believe it or not, actually use the networks of those top four, and they remarket them under a different name, and they just have an agreement. So I could find a T-Mobile, a Verizon, and a Comcast, excuse me, T-Mobile, Verizon, and AT&T user all being in the same spot, and none of them may work in there. Then all of a sudden one may work. The one thing I have found, and I am not advocating somebody change their service. I'm on T-Mobile, and that's the only one in this community in which there's a tower. The Vantage Point East, on their, I think it's Vantage Point East, on their roof, they have a tower. And I'm at the other end of the complex. I can tell you very rarely do I have a problem. Very rare. And I'm on 5G. And even when I was on 5G, I had a problem. But it really varies from where you're going. And so then you have to ask yourself the question, how important am I dependent on my cell phone? Does it really need to work? And if it's not doing what you want to do, then I would suggest at least taking a look or talking to people that may have the other ones. How does it work for them? Or have when somebody comes to your house, what do you have? Let's see how it works. Maybe it might work differently. But they're all good services, and please, I don't want you to all run off in one, it's terrible service. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it's going to vary from person to person, where you're sitting in your building, what room you're in, how much concrete's around you, how much steel is around you. All of that can affect that service. I hope I answered your question.
You did, thank you very much, but it is difficult to change from one carrier to another.
It can be, it can be. You've got to port the phone number, and again, I won't get too technical here, but when you go to change, you port the number from one carrier to the other one, and it's a little bit of hassle. It's not
Are you
straight.
able to keep the same phone number?
You keep the same phone number. In this area, now that it's gotten much better over the years. It used to be a time you couldn't. But in recent times, I was able to. I've been with Verizon, I've been with AT&T, and I've been with T-Mobile. And for me, this is me speaking, and please, I don't want you all to think I'm speaking. I've had the best luck with T-Mobile than I've had with all of them. That's me.
So have all my neighbors.
I've had the best luck. Huh?
Me too, and also it's the most cost effective.
Yeah.
It's less than all the other carriers, and in my building, it works fabulous.
I have, I'm not.
And I kept the same phone number when I left Verizon.
Yeah, so there are programs out there, you can get unlimited everything for fixed prices, and I have a deal and a half, but I've had it now for 8 or 9 years, I think, with T-Mobile, T-Mobile, and it's been great. But Verizon, and I go to some people I talk in here, and they have Verizon, I love it, it's great. Other people say AT&T, I love it. But, you go into the admin building, which I've been working in for a long time, I go to parts of that building, it doesn't work. That even my T-Mobile has issues because it's, again, where I'm at. All right, is there any questions on Zoom? Anybody else have any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
I really have enjoyed your presentation.
Even with all my technical difficulties, at least I showed you all the world isn't utopia.
But what I'd like to know is, on campus here at Legion World, where can we go and we can tap into YouTube? There's lots of programs on there. I do a lot of cooking. I'm president of the Legion World Vegetarian Club, and we do a lot of presentations from doctors and so forth and for cooking shows. And I'd like to be able to tap into some of what YouTube offers in the Norbit room or in a room that we use here at Legion World. Is that possible?
So I know Legion World is looking at, the Trust is looking at advancements to audiovisual equipment. We've got some changes we made. But, the ability to wheel in these TVs into a room and plug in and have a computer attached to it is pretty much available anywhere because they've got Wi-Fi in these buildings. Now, it's wireless Wi-Fi. But here's the caveat to that. It is not secure. And you want to be very careful. When you, like right now, I'm not in a secure environment, but I'm on a computer. I don't care because not really being used other than for something like this. But you want to be careful, and then on your machine, you want to have some sort of protection on whatever device it is. Even if it's a cell phone, you want to protect your cell phone because people can tap into that, and it's insanity. It's insanity what's going on with computer crime. People steal, and a lot from seniors. It's in the billions of dollars in this country of theft. But you can still, back to answer your question, you could tap into that, go into the room, ask for a screen TV, and through the wireless pull up and bring up YouTube and do a presentation.
And will it show up on the screen this side?
Yep.
It will.
Yep. You can take your laptop and hook it up to it. In fact, that's what she's got right down here. She's got a laptop down here. It's tied to that. They're running Zoom from it right now.
I don't have a laptop. I have an iPad, and I wouldn't use
So if you needed something, you could certainly talk to the Technology Resource Center, or ask the Lifestyles Department. They do have some laptops they might make available to you if you needed to.
Well, that's good to know. Thank you.
Do I have any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, so the question is about training.
I can't hardly hear you, I'm sorry.
Sorry, the question is about training. So we have residents who can't get themselves to the technology center to get help with stuff because their mobility impaired or they're homebound. And they could benefit a lot
Sure.
from a lot of this technology, but they don't know about it. So what are we doing to reach out to those people and provide resources?
So her question was about having training available to people that may not be able to get out and about to go to where the training may occur. So I know with the Technology Resource Center and the conversations we've had, and one of my colleagues on the board is here, we've looked at organizations that will provide web-based training to do things, and we'll actually have programs set up that people can register for and participate in those various training programs. But back to the idea of, and as this young lady here had mentioned about YouTube and all, you can any subject you can think of, you can type and ask for it. But if you don't know what they look for, then go to something like the center, or even call them. Call the center and say, hey, I'm interested in doing this. Do you have any suggestions? If they don't know, hopefully you can say to them, can you ask somebody if they can get that and call me back? And then be able to get you that information to do that. In fact, they just brought YouTube up over here. But it is something that could be worked on. If you needed that to be done, or somebody needed it, it could be done. And I know that the center is talking about going into this web-based solution for training, because that's really where the world has come to. With COVID, it's just so much has changed on doing that. I hope I've answered your question. Yes? Sort of. Okay, sorry. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
The one call now, you said go to your YouTube, and if they don't have that system set up for all three categories.
Well, you can tell them you want it to be for all three. You can do it yourself. There's an app you can download from One Call Now, and your property manager should know about that. And then you can set it up to be able to do, she's asking about One Call Now, setting it up that you could do all three notifications. Sorry, I said I'd repeat that. So you could actually go there and say to them, I want to be set up for all three, and then you just give them your email, your phone number, and all that you want it sent to. And oh, by the way, I can reassign it to a family member if I needed to. If I needed them to know it too, I could have them be part of that list. So if I wanted them to be aware of what's going on in the emergencies, that can happen too. Yes?
If I wanted to do it myself, I would go to onecallnow.com.
Actually, if you go to the Regional World Residents.lwmc.com, and on the last one, I think it's contacts, there is actually a page, I put it out there, that describes how to do that. It's actually on the website, residents.com, residents.lwmc.com.
I also wanted to say, you're right, and the young lady's right about the YouTube, but you can also Google a lot of stuff.
Yes. So what she's saying about getting information, you can also Google. Again, you got to know what you're looking for. You know, there's so many avenues out there. If you don't know, it's hard. But certainly ask, and I would use the Resource Center, the Technology Resource, as a resource to do that and see what you can find out. And then, like with the Center for Lifelong Learning, they asked me to do this, is tell them you want to see types of courses like this, or like particular subjects. Like we've mentioned some since I started talking, there are things we could be offering to everybody that might be useful, and then have them say, hey, can we get something on security for seniors? How do you address that? Or how do you use YouTube or whatever? I mean, I'm willing to come and offer them. Now that this podium is not the greatest, I've been having to balance, this thing keeps falling off on me. But there are lots of resources. Yes?
I just want to say that there are high school students that need credit for graduation.
Yes.
And they're willing to come in here to teach them.
Yes, and they've come before, but they stopped with COVID. We were using them, they were having days in which they were there. The center had even looked at using them to come in and help man the place, but again, with COVID, that kind of died out. And so you'd have to look at it from a school year to school year, and we would, at this point, we'd probably look at it next year if we would do something like that. But that's an excellent resource, and I got a lot of feedback from when we were doing that. People loved it, and they were clamoring to get in and ask them to help them with different things. They bring their device and sit and learn about it. I think it's a great way to be able to do it.
That was offered by the Jewish Residents Club.
Yes. Any other questions, ma'am?
Yes, the Resource Center, can you tell me when the Apple part of it, when the Apple user part of it is open to residents?
Well, it's whenever the center's open, that part is in there. Who can help you, it depends on the schedule, but they've got a list of who's knowledgeable on each of the subjects, and they can give you the email or the phone number of that person for you to be able to call them. Those that are willing to let you call them, otherwise they come into the center. But because of COVID, we've been much more flexible about distant communications and all of doing that. And this is all free to you. You shouldn't be having to pay for any of that service. If anybody's come around charging you for this, it's not the Technology Resource Center doing that.
So what you're saying is that if an Apple user does not mind getting a phone call,
No.
Apple Resource.
No, in fact, the gentleman was up here earlier, he's one of them, Alan Solomon, who's actually on the board. He's our president, and he's also an avid Apple user. He helps people all the time with Apple questions. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say I enjoyed the presentation.
Thank
It
you.
gave me a lot of information that I had no idea about, a lot of things that could
Thank you. I apologize for my I should have tested my sound before I got here. When you're in the heat of the matter trying to do it with no lights on, it's a little challenging, but I appreciate it. Anything else? So thank you all for coming. I hope this was helpful, and we all appreciate it.